What's up, everyone? Just make sure that's recording. Okay. So this is just a really quick tutorial on how to make an anime character in Unity in your games. Really quick and easy to use. We're gonna be cheating quite a bit, but it's all free to use, and like it'll actually end up looking pretty decent, I think. So first off, I'll have this just blank project in Unity. I have imported two Unity packages, which I will have either in the description or you can find them on the Discord. They're right here. I have been pinged, but I will look at that later. So yeah, that's just these two packages right here. We're also going to be using this Cat's Blender plugin. We're going to be using Blender later on today. But that should be all you need. You can download this one within Cats in Blender, but this one I'm not really sure, but I found it on my computer, so I decided to include it just in case. But we should just need these three, and then this fourth one later on. Okay, so first off, to actually get started, we need a character to work with, and to do that, we're going to skip the whole modeling process and just go straight to VRoid Studio. Fun fact: VRoid Studio was actually made in Unity. But this is the character we used in the tutorial I did in Club, so we're just gonna stick with that for consistency. VRoid's pretty cool. You have a lot of options to like customize. It's basically like a super in-depth character customizer. I think the coolest part is the hair editor. So you can like either mess with like the joints themselves, like change how the hair flows, or you can go to the brush tool and just draw hair in yourself. And you could change different things about the strand, like what cross section it uses, and that'll show you sort of a preview right here. But we're not going to dive into that too much today. I'm just going to export this as is because I want to get onto the Unity part. And I'm sure you guys will have more creative ideas and like more better design than I will. You can also edit clothing within here. If you go to the texture tab, you can actually export the texture to like a paint editing program and just like draw all over. You can see the changes sort of being reflected. But that is again for you guys to do and me to appreciate that you guys are better at. But let's just go ahead and hit export here, and I'm just gonna hit OK, and let's go ahead and save it in here. I'm gonna create a new folder, call it model, and you can see it saves as a VRM. We will worry about that later, but there we go, it's saved. So now if we go in here, cool thing is the VRM importer, this package right here, automatically when you import a VRM file into Unity, will automatically extract it and basically make it Unity workable. So you can see it's already made these 4 folders for us, as well as created this prefab, which if we drag into our scene and then reset the transform, you'll see is actually pretty much already ready for us to work with. It has a bunch of scripts on it in here. You can see this one's only meant to enable when playing. So if we hit play, go back to our scene view, and then now if we mess with any of these, you can see it actually changes the expression of the character, which is what these blend shapes control. Which is pretty cool, but there are a lot of limitations to this, namely that you have to use these APIs to sort of work with the character. So we're actually going to go a couple steps further, take it into Blender, work with it a little bit there, and bring it back. So it's just a default FBX model. One thing about this though is that it already has like hair joints and clothing joints and stuff set up so that they all have physics and stuff. We're going to have to do that manually later. But again, that's just another degree of customizability. You can probably skip this next part if you don't want to. I think the animations will still apply. We'll double check that at the end, but for now we're going to continue onwards. First thing we're going to do is this .textures folder. You can see there's .blend shapes, .materials, .meshes, and then .textures. If we rename this .textures file to text, that'll tell Blender, hey, this folder contains a bunch of textures for the character, so we're not just looking at a blank gray figure in Blender. So yeah, let's actually close out of VRoid, save some resources on my computer, and let's go ahead and open a Blender. So think there was an update there, but I'm just going to select everything with A, hit X, and delete them. I'm using Blender 2.8. I think it should still work with 2.79, but you know, if you're not using 2.8, what are you doing? We're going to go to Edit and Preferences just to show you really quickly how you'd install add-ons, the ones I mentioned earlier. So you go to the add-ons tab here, hit Install, navigate to, let me go up a folder into Downloads and VRoid stuff. You don't need to unzip any of these, by the way. You can just import install them from the zip file into Blender. So you can just choose cats and then install item from file. I already have them installed, so I'm not going to do that. But make sure afterwards that they are checked inside here, so that they're actually enabled. You may need to restart Blender a couple times for everything, but that should cover all of that. And once you've done that, feel free to navigate down to the cats tab here. I'm going to actually close these up to get some space, but there's this large import model button here. You just click that and import the VRM. Actually, I missed a step. Back up. Okay, so on this model here, we are going to add the PMX exporter. You might be able to export this as is, actually. I'm not sure. I think that might work. Let's find out, you know, try something new. But if it doesn't, what you do is, okay, wait, I totally just did it. But yeah, so everything is blank right now. If we hit fix model, hopefully that'll just magically fix everything. There we go. Okay, it actually just totally works. The only thing is it sort of makes a mess of your directory, so make sure you have it in a subdirectory. You're gonna find a bunch of these. Okay, so that totally did just work, which is kind of cool. We can skip a step actually, so we don't need this PMX exporter, I guess. But the way I did it before was click this export button, which would create a PMX file, and import that. But if we don't need this, then I'm all about it. Just one less step to do. We'll find out in a bit if we'll actually need it or not. But so yeah, you'll definitely want to click that fix model button at least once. Probably not more than once, but you can see it auto generates a rig for like the clothes and the hair and the body itself. So yeah, it used to be the case that all of these were in, like, VRoid was entirely in Japanese, so you'd have to use the translations. I don't think you need to anymore, so I'm not going to worry about that. But we do want to go to optimization here and save an atlas. This will just reduce some of the clutter of materials. You can just create an atlas in the same directory, and there we go. Looks like the hair has been turned white. Oh, whoops, I forgot to update material list and then save atlas. No unique materials selected. Okay, well, I guess I just lost the hair color. I probably forgot to update material list before clicking save atlas. It was unfortunate, but I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, I messed up, but that's okay. Yeah, so once we've done that, we can just hit export and choose the same folder and just give it a name. There we go. Just have it export and just let it load. Here we go. Here it is. So if we drag this into the scene, move it a little bit off to the right. See, there's a couple of issues with what we're seeing right now. So first thing we're going to do is go to the rig, change it from generic to humanoid. This is on the model object here, and hit apply. Let that work for a second, maybe a couple seconds. There we go. And then the next thing we're going to do is go to this materials tab and extract the material. And just select that folder. Why not? Increase the clutter in this. Cool. So since we made an atlas, we only need one material. Kind of nice. First problem is that it's using the standard shader. It needs to be using VRM and MToon. That'll get it closer towards this. And then you'll notice the eyes are still kind of messed up. Change this from opaque to cutout, and there we go. That's pretty much all of that fixed. And now to get it closer to this, what you'll want to do is change the rim lighting to be a bit brighter, and change the emission a little bit. You know, there's a lot of stuff you could do. You probably actually don't want to change the emission, but Fresnel power. Yeah, again, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Give that thick outline if you'd like. I actually kind of like the outline, so I'm going to leave that, but there's a lot of stuff. I actually don't know what this does. Okay, maybe we don't want that. That was just funny to look at though. Okay. Cool. So this is just a default FBX like object. It doesn't have any of the like many scripts that this does, which also means that we have a lot more control over it, which is what we want. The other thing is we'll need to add individually to like all of the loads and the hair, all of the spring bones again. So like if we go down to the hair, you can click on it to find out which one is which, and you can like move it around to see sort of where it is. But if you add the VRoid spring bone to that, you can sort of change how that works. There's a lot of settings to mess with here, but hopefully that's enough to like get you guys started. Choose which bones you need to have physics, and just have the hair bounce around while you run around, which is actually what we're going to do next. We're going to work on animation. So to do that, we'll actually need some animations, but really quickly, let's go ahead and create an animator controller, and this will control all of our animation. I'll just call it like player controller. I'm assuming this is going to be like in a game. So let's go ahead and create an empty state, or not a state, I apologize. We're going to create an empty blend tree, and I'm going to name this blend tree locomotion, and let's go ahead and double click on that to enter that layer. So blend trees will, as the name implies, will blend between animations. We're going to be blending between 3 animations. So let's go ahead and source those animations right now. So there's this really handy site called mixamo.com. Keyframe animations are a pain to do, so we're just going to have them be done for us. Mixamo is completely free to use, and like free to make. You have to make an account, but it's like an Adobe account, so if you already have one of those, or you can sign in through Google or Facebook. So that just gives you an access to a library of characters by a bunch of different people. Looks like they added some new ones I haven't seen yet, but they also have a huge repository of animations. But we're just going to be searching for a couple of idle animations. I'm actually going to mess with the animation a little bit here, and then I want to make it overdrive, maybe give a little bit of arm space. I'm going to go ahead and download that. I'm going to download it without the skin as an FBX for Unity. I think the rest of this stuff is fine. And once we've done that, we just got to go choose our folder. I'm actually not going to put it in the model folder. I'll make a new folder called animations, and I'm going to just rename this to idle. Okay. And before I forget, I'm actually going to download the T-pose animation as well, just to have a reference for the rig for each of these animations. I'm going to download this with skin, and I'll explain why in a moment. But essentially the difference is that in the preview window for Unity, if you download it without the skin, it'll do like the default Unity humanoid thing, which is kind of creepy, versus the, like if you download with skin, it'll show the skin of the avatar in the preview window here. So let's find a walk animation. This looks fine to me. I'm gonna make it in place since I don't want it to be root motion. I don't want to mess with root motion right now. I'm gonna give a little bit of character arm space so that we don't clip into the dress too much, as well as yeah, I think that's fine actually. And I remember to download that without skin just to save a little bit of space. Okay, and we'll just rename this to walking. Cool. And lastly, just get a running animation. Okay, cool. Again, make that in place, give it a little bit more arm space, and go ahead and hit download. You can choose any sort of animation you want from here. The same principles should apply. Let's go ahead and download that. And then if we head back into here, we can go choose our animation tab. So first off, let's click on the T-pose. Let's go to the rig tab and change it from humanoid or generic to humanoid and click apply. And that'll create us an avatar to use a reference for all of the Mixamo animations we downloaded. We can click on all of these and select all of them. Make them humanoid as well, but instead of create from this model, we're going to choose copy from other avatar, just so we don't have a bunch of avatars created in our scene. So we go ahead and hit T-pose avatar, hit apply. And there we go. All of these should now be using the T-pose avatar. So now if we go to the walking FBX, go to the animation tab and change this from mixamo.com to walking, just so we know what it is when we're trying to find it, and make sure that it loops and hit apply. So you can see in the preview window it's actually using this skin now, which is kind of nice since we're copying this avatar. We can see it looks pretty much exactly as you'd expect. We'll do the same for the idle. We'll rename this to idle, make sure that it loops and hit apply. And for running as well, same process. Change the name to running, make sure it loops and hit apply. So now in our blend tree, you'll see that it automatically created this blend parameter for us. I'm going to rename this to speed percent to make it a little bit more apparent what it is. Normally, in 90% of cases, you'll be changing this value from script based on how fast your character is moving. If they're at 0, they're idling. If they're at 1, they're running. So like based off their max speed, you normalize it. But again, that's something for another time. For now, we'll just slot these animations in. It's just idle, walking, and running. And if you want to, so right now the way it is 0 is idle, 0.5 is walking, 1 is running. If you want to change how that works, you can uncheck the automate thresholds and choose different values yourself. You can change the speed of each animation individually within these fields. This is the multiplier for their speed. And you can mirror them. So say we want this idle animation to actually be looking the other way. We just click this. And there we go. It just changes how it looks, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now that we have that, if we go back into our scene, go onto our model and drag this player controller, animator controller into this controller slot. Now we can hit play, and you can see that our character is just idling, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to drag this down here. Make sure to reselect our model so that we have a link between what we're doing here. So now as we slowly drag the speed percent up, you can see them blend into a walking animation and then into a running animation. Cool. So yeah, there we go. We have animations working. The one thing is that our expression is just always blank, the default here. So if we go into the animation tab for the model, you'll notice that we can sort of see all of this. If you can't, you can click the little thing that says show properties or whatever it is. But it also says read only, so we can't actually change any of these. Like I can't delete any of these or like move them in any way. So what we're gonna do to fix that, we're gonna go to our animations and we're gonna actually just duplicate this. And the important thing is you want to duplicate this after you've set this to be a humanoid rig, otherwise this won't work. But we can change this idle animation now. So let me rename this to like idle custom, and then in our animator we'll go ahead and change this idle to idle custom. And now in our animation tab for the model, you can see that we're using idle custom, which is not read only, which means we can change any of these keyframes, or more importantly, add any keyframes that we want. So if we go into the body of the model, you'll see that there's this blend shapes drop down that if we unfold has a bunch of things for us to mess with. So like Again, like the angry would make them progressively angrier, I believe. That's working correctly. Can't really tell. Yeah, that's working. Okay. So yeah, maybe so if we hit record, it'll do any of the changes we make. So I'm just gonna have them get really angry by the end of it. There we go. That's like really simple, like them just getting angry as the animation. I don't know. Something simple. But yeah, so that'll just add some expression to the animation. So if we hit play again, I guess we can't really see it there, but I can't tell. I guess I should have chose something a little bit more probably a little bit more apparent. Unless it didn't save, but no, it looks like it did. Okay. But yeah, that's basically how you'd add animations to a character. What I wanted to check, we're basically done now. But I wanted to check really quickly if we could do the same for this. So if we choose the player controller here, if that'll work the same way. Let me actually disable this for now. Yep, okay, it does. And then we choose this, and let me actually go into scene view here for this. If we slowly increase this, oh yeah, it totally does. Cool. It's a little bit weird how they're running, but that's probably just a little bit of like IK fixes we need to make, but here we go. So that does actually work with the default model out of the box, but you can see the animations look a little bit different than they did on the other character, mainly because of rig differences. But yeah, you can see the physics actually going to work on this, which is pretty neat. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I probably should have done this at the start so you guys didn't have to sit through everything if you were fine with just this. But it is helpful to know, I think. So thank you for sticking through it. Yeah, that's going to be it for this episode.